talk about it. Baby, we're here to talk about it. Yeah, we're here.
Welcome, Foreheads. This is a new podcast. It's called Let's Talk About It, the show where we do just that. This is an educational podcast hosted by yours truly and Jacob Gasho.
Great to finally express our knowledge.
So we decided, there was a lot of there's a lot of info out there, a lot of knowledge, a lot of academia, a lot of scientific fact that we felt needed to be further investigated, explored, and taught to the common folk, the unwashed masses. And, every week or every episode, don't depend on the week thing. Don't get too excited about that. Every episode, we'll have a new topic to discuss, and you're going to learn so much about these things.
College education today is just so expensive, and I think it's kind of the inspiration of this cast is just we're both college graduates, and we both hate the system. Too expensive, don't learn anything, and we're trying to give back to the community.
Yeah, this podcast could effectively replace a college education, non-political podcast, educational podcast, just for the
plug your ears, kids. Plug your ears
for the kids. And today's topic, we're getting right into the meat of it, the things people want to know about, and we are experts in this topic. I am. I lived with. Introduce the topic first. So today we're going to be talking about the Bavarian Warmblood, which is a breed of horse. So that's your first fact. Write it down, class.
I'm really happy we got this topic today because I actually lived with a Bavarian Warmblood in my early 20s.
So recently?
Like a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's a strange life.
It is. It really is. The Bavarian Warmblood is today's topic. It's a beautiful horse. And again, we are experts in this topic. Bavaria is the English word for Bayern, which is, southeastern Germany. The big city there, Munich. You may have heard of that. There's a movie about it. It's called Munich.
And there's a soccer team about it, Bayern Munich.
There is a soccer team about it. And they make my favorite kind of beer there.
What?
That's
Bavarian beer?
So Munich and Bavaria, Bayern, if you will. That's where, Oktoberfest that's kind of the home of Oktoberfest traditions. And the typical beer that they brew for Oktoberfest is Märzen beer, which März is German for March. And so that's when they start brewing it, and then it's done by October, hence Oktoberfest.
Jesus Christ.
So
it takes a long fucking time.
It does. But, that's my favorite kind of beer. I always look forward to Oktoberfest. I'm looking forward to it this year, except for it's canceled.
They probably won't do it.
Yeah.
Probably canceled culture.
Cancel culture.
Cancel the beer fest. What are you drinking, by the way? Is that a payola?
It's called Polar
Cherry Seltzer Ale.
It's Seltzer Aid.
Seltzer Aid.
It's a sparkling water, so it's kind of like LaCroix, but this one's better. It's called.
Oh shit!
I don't like LaCroix at all, and I don't like
At all?
and I don't like. I guess that's not fair because I haven't really had a lot of LaCroix. But
Yeah, don't diss LaCroix like that.
yeah, don't get ahead of yourself on weighing in on LaCroix. This one's tart cherry limeade.
Ugh. Sounds a little gross, but
No, it's
I'm
good.
I'm not your taste buds.
Look, I'm not your taste bud.
Look, bro, I'm not your taste buds.
That's a good line if you're fending off a guy at a bar. Look, I'm not your taste bud.
Oh yeah, say it like that.
I found that the less like sugary drinks and stuff that you consume, the more you will like the more subtle flavor of something like a sparkling seltzer, you know?
Oh, I can see that because
I'm still working on that.
well, when I drank tea, or when I got into tea, there's a lot of like sugary tea that's not doesn't have any sugar in it, and so my taste buds have reacted to the subtleties of taste, and now I feel like I'm a real food connoisseur,
A foodie.
I'm kind of a foodie. I'm a foodie. I've become more of a foodie through the beverage of good old classic Louisiana sweet tea.
Do you feel like you have that expanded, nuanced palate for most things, or just tea?
I think most things, to be honest. So like I started with tea, and then now that got me into wine, which is another beverage, to be fair. But also, I think just in food in general, like for my last birthday, I went to this real fancy ass farm to table restaurant where they have 7 meals, wine pairings and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, I just had a blast. It was fun.
I had a blast.
I had a real fun time, but I got whiskey at the end, and it was $13 for like a little tiny glass. And I only took one drink of it.
What kind of?
It was gross.
If $13 for a shot is a lot, you must have had like a pretty serious.
It was a lot.
Beverage?
Well, the whole meal costed $350 for 4 people. Yeah.
I saw. Oh man, I got so many topics here. I was thinking wine and liquor are, I think, the things that the most impressive palate thing. I guess I don't know a lot about tea, but when I was looking a lot at like people talking about like scotch and whiskey and stuff on the internet, and seeing how they talk about it and the way that they describe the palate and stuff, and then I have it and I'm just like, this tastes like wood, you know? Like, you know, like bourbon, American whiskeys taste a lot more like wood, I think. And scotch has more smoke in it. That's about as far as I've gotten in my whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey is too. I have a friend who is super into whiskey, but I've only gotten one thing of whiskey before, and it was a Scotch one because I like the Scotch whiskeys. But
what kind?
It was an Isla. Well, all of it. I think all of it's Isla Scotch, but it was a Lafroig.
Like, okay, yeah. That's a.
Yeah.
What do you mean all of it's Isla?
I thought all Scotch was from. Oh, maybe Isla's some Scotches.
Isla is a part of Scotland. Then they identify them by where they're produced.
Okay, I think Lafroig specifies an Isla Scotch. Yeah. I think that's what the deal was.
Those are known to be more bitter and smoky and difficult.
I like that. Well, I like the smoke aspect. I like the smoky aspect of it. And the one I had was really young, and it wasn't too smoky. So I think it was kind of like an oddball of the Lafroig family. It's still pretty good, though. You have some nice woody, sweet cherry type flavors.
Yeah, I like the sweeter stuff. I mean, I don't really like to. I drink a lot of just beverages in general, like liquids all the time. I don't know why, but I have an insatiable thirst. It's just a thing I have. I drink like gallons of water every day and multiple cans of this sparkling water and tea and stuff.
It's like to have something in your mouth. It's just fun to just keep putting things in your mouth.
Yeah, it must be a psychological situation. We need to get Freud on this.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I like the Irish whiskeys because they have more like of a fiery, kind of sweet, fiery kind of taste, in my opinion.
I've only tried Jameson. That's the only one I've ever tried.
Yeah, Jameson's all right.
That's kind of like the cheap shit, I think.
Yeah. Liquor kind of goes too fast. Like it's a lot of money for the amount of actual liquid you're gonna drink.
Dude, I spent $50 on a bottle, like a 750 milliliter bottle, $50. But I think that, at least for me, I would only drink it once a week, twice a week tops, and sometimes not even at all. So I think it lasted 2 or 3 months for me. But some boozers, they're drinking
some boozers,
some booze heads, fucking alkies. They're drinking every day, so they're probably spending a good penny on scotch.
Well, I think actual alcoholics drink vodka. Like that's
because it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper. It gets you drunker, and I think it's one of the most easy to conceal. Like you can always put clear liquor in a water bottle or whatever.
That makes sense. That's like on have you ever seen Up in Smoke?
Yeah, we watched it together.
We did.
I think.
Oh, I don't remember that. I've seen it so many times.
It's my favorite movie.
Dude, it used to be. I used to watch it every day for a month.
The only thing I remember is that they were in a weed car at one point, and they
yeah, they're in a weed car, and then then it cuts to this scene where they're on the side of the road, and Tommy Chong is like, he's like, I think we're parked, man. And then they're just like, they're in a ditch or some shit, and the cops come up to them, and it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. Smoking dog shit.
I watched Scoob, the new Scooby-Doo movie.
Oh, so that was a new thing. I saw that on your Graham story.
Yeah, I thought of you just because, you know, classic Jacob, the Shaggy of the gang.
I don't look as Shaggy anymore.
No, you don't. It's kind of fucked up.
No, it is fucked up. I lose character pretty fast.
I become more boring if you sit.
A lot more boring in person.
The movie I'm going to talk about Scoob on the main podcast, but the one I want to talk to you about, because I'm not going to talk about it on the regular podcast, because I just watched Breaking the Waves.
Oh, that's a good one.
Is it?
I thought it was good. It was a weird movie.
It's fucking miserable, just like all of Lars von Trier's movies.
Yeah, it was kind of miserable.
I don't like that.
She gets raped, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I forgot, why did she start being a hoe? Because it was something to do with her boyfriend or husband.
Her husband gets paralyzed in an accident on an oil rig, and since he can't have sex with her anymore, he asks her to go have sex with other men and tell him about it.
Oh,
and so she's also tormented because not only is she mentally ill, but she's like a devout Christian. Yeah. And so it's like a huge thing of turmoil because she loves her husband and wants to do the right thing for him, but also doesn't want to be in breach and sin. And it's just like she gets torn apart at the seams and then, you know, eventually is raped for her trouble.
Yeah, it's a rough movie.
It's
fucking
awful.
Happy one.
I had this whole, by the way, today's topic, Bavarian Warmblood. We are experts on this.
Speaking of Bavarian Warmblood, though, I remembered an interesting thing about them. So this is from a book I wrote. I'm just going to quote a sentence. They have a desirable type, including an elegant they are an elegant, attractive horse with dry limbs and head and clear sex expression. And I think that's real important when thinking of Bavarian Warmbloods. It's a
clear
real
sex expression.
Yeah, so it's referring to their likelihood of mating. So it's a really good horse. If you want more horses, you get yourself a Bavarian Warmblood.
I know from my personal experience in research, in researching the Bavarian Warmblood, in my hands-on research, that it is usually seen as an international sport horse, and will compete in eventing, show jumping, and dressage. So, pretty good horse.
Yeah. Dressage completely. I remember those days, those dressage days.
Oh yeah. But when you said clear sex expression, it reminded me of Lars von Trier's movies because he's into it.
Oh, what was that? Nymphomaniac
was.
I actually talked to a woman who claimed she was a nymphomaniac online. Yeah. I don't remember how it happened.
I have many questions.
I don't remember how it happened. I was in California. I know that. I was in California. And one thing I remember was her. Oh, I was younger. I think I was like 18 or 17. And I was super into it. I was like, oh, yeah, I can go all night, baby. And then she was like, you don't understand. I never stop. And she said it sort of like deep and evil.
What the hell? This is on like
hell?
What the hell?
What the hell?
This is like what, on Omegle or Chat Roulette or what?
I think it was either that or another app called Meet Me. It was that or Omegle, one of the two.
So you were probably talking to like a car dealer in Cedar Rapids or something.
In my own fantasy world, it's a hot chick named Christy.
Okay. But it's probably Bob Thompson.
Probably Bob Thompson's car dealership. We deal in tires, cars, and all the other stuff.
Yeah, but I don't watch movies to get upset. I don't think
anybody does, though. It's weird why someone would want to make a movie like that. I think that's sort of interesting.
Well, yeah, I know.
That's his deal.
That is the question.
Deal.
I think there's an element of like, I think that movie in particular is clearly like kind of this critique of the oppression of organized religion, particularly Christianity, in a very much like an Ingmar Bergman way, where there's like this, if you recall the ending of the movie, there's kind of a interesting, weird, surreal moment at the end.
I remember that. Yeah. Does Bergman have a thing in one of his movies? Like weird surreal?
Yeah, that just reminds me a lot of like The Seventh Seal and Virgin Spring and a lot of his like metaphor-based discussions of religion and stuff. Because in The Seventh Seal, like death is literally a character, Oh,
okay. Yeah, I have seen that then. I was trying to remember. Well, it's kind of interesting you bring that Bergman is related to von Trier, because Bergman also is kind of the bearer of bad news too. His movies are fucking depressing sometimes.
Bergman, at least, I was talking about
Seven Seals, kind of sad. The Strawberry movie is a little
the one
sad.
I really actually like. Wild Strawberries I've seen twice, and I really couldn't tell you anything about it other than there's a crazy dream sequence at the beginning, and that he is
it's mostly dream sequences, I think.
Professor, and it's sad, and he's dying.
But then he sort of, he kind of like becomes happy at the end. Like he sort of realizes he's been a dickhead, and I think he loans his son money or something like that. He does something nice.
Yeah. See, again, my whole point is I don't watch a movie to get miserable. Like I have enough. But I think this is it's a very European thing. I think the Europeans are really into it. It's a very like modern, it's like, I almost want to say it comes from just the modernist tradition, you know, like because all like of literature and art and stuff, it just happened later in films, you know, that since so many earlier films.
I wonder if it's an existential thing.
Yeah, and that's such a French, you know, existentialism is usually linked to French writers and philosophers, so you can probably, you know, link everything back to just this European, like advanced interest in, you know, philosophy and thought and stuff, and so they're more accepting and interested in stuff like exploring misery and suffering and religion. It's just like my American sensibilities, and this is what sucks is like so many of the classic European art house movies are just about misery and does God exist and stuff, and it's just like I think as Americans we want that cathartic feeling. Yeah, like just show me a baseball movie with Charlie Sheen. Give me Scoob. Show me Scoob. Well, let me watch Scoob, dude. Dude, show me Scoob, dude. There he is, reprising his role. He's coming back, man. How was Scoob? I think we cut off on the Scoob part. We didn't get into Scoob. It was pretty good. I don't know if you saw Into the Spider-Verse, that Spider-Man movie, but I heard you talk about it on your other podcast. It's like that, but for Scooby-Doo. Is the Spider-Verse one, does it have a black animated kid on the front cover? Yeah, he's the main character. Okay. I've always been hesitant to watch it because it doesn't seem like up my alley. That sounds like you're racist. It sounds like I'm too artsy for it. I'm hesitant to watch it because there's a black main character. There's a black guy, he's Spider-Man. It's just not right. It's not right. No, it's I mean, Spider-Verse is good. They're both just very like fresh, like trying to be very contemporary takes on both of those things, you know? Like in Scoob, there's like I don't know, the characters like make a lot of cultural references and stuff. So weirdly in Scoob, Simon Cowell is a character. And I didn't even think anybody cared or thought about Simon Cowell for years. What does he do in that movie? He plays himself. He plays Simon Cowell. He shows up, and I think he's like going to be an investor in Mystery Inc. I don't know. Oh my God. It's kind of wacky. Like, I wonder if they knew that was just so out of left field and kind of funny. That's like being Eminem showing up at the Grammys. Or not the Grammys, the whatever. At the Oscars. Yeah, just except for that, someone in there that look weird. They thought Eminem at the Oscars was going to be cool compared to, I think Simon Cowell in Scoob is more like, okay, this will be hilarious. If we need a celebrity cameo, because that's how Scooby-Doo always has celebrity cameos. So I guess they were just like, what would be the most out of fucking left field person who's not relevant anymore to show up as a celebrity? Was Simon Cowell actually playing Simon Cowell? I assume so. It sounded like him. Oh, that's awesome. The cast is pretty good. So it was Zac Efron played Fred. Oh, dude, that's tight. Will Forte played Shaggy, which I miss. What's his name? Matthew Lillard. He's the best Shaggy, I think. Was he in Skull Island? The original, those live action movies. He played Shaggy in those, which are fucking those masterpieces. Shit back in the day. Yeah, those go hard. Frank Welker, the original voice of Fred, plays Scooby, like from the 70s Scooby-Doo. So it sounds like it's a real sort of like try and bring back the tradition of Scooby-Doo. Yeah, bring it to the kids, man. Added bits with Simon Cowell. Yeah. Well, there's like they dab and they dab? There's a part where they do dabs, dude. Instead of smoking weed, dude, he does dabs. Does he? No, he doesn't. No, like there's a character, Mark Wahlberg plays like this superhero character who's the Blue Falcon is his name, I think. and he like
Is he evil?
he shows
Or
up.
good?
No, he's a good guy, and he shows up and he
Okay.
dabs when he shows up, stuff like that.
What is that a dance move?
Like this dab. You know?
Oh, I didn't know it was called a dab.
Yeah,
I'm a fucking old fart.
yeah, you
Old
are
fart.
drinking fucking Isla Scotch, not knowing what a
Irish
dab
Scotch
is.
wine. Dude, this is how lame I am. I think it's cool when I drink 2 glasses of wine. I'm like, oh my god, I'm going crazy.
You're
I had
becoming
2
a mom.
glasses. I'm a fucking mom. Because last night I had 2 glasses with my mom as we watched Django Unchained. So
Hell yeah.
my mom was so hesitant to watch it last night. Like, Mom, this movie's awesome. I hadn't seen it in forever, and it definitely stood the test of time.
And did she end up liking it?
Yeah, she was like, at the end, she was like, man, I'm a fucking moron.
I'm an idiot.
I'm an idiot.
You should next time you should be like, Mom, we should watch this movie Breaking the Waves. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, let's watch. What's that Kurosawa movie I watched? Oh, Ikaro. Let's watch
Yeah.
Ikaro, Mom. Let's watch 3 hours of a guy dying from stomach cancer.
I really like Kurosawa. I didn't really like Ikaru that much.
That guy has like 20 movies on Criterion Channel.
Yeah,
It's
he's
so hard to pick
legit.
what movie I wanted to see.
You should watch High and Low. That one's really good.
When was that made?
It's like 62.
Okay, I was recommended this samurai movie he did in the 80s.
Oh,
That's
Ran,
up my-
probably. Ran
Probably.
or Kagamusha. Those are the 2 movies he made in the
I
80s.
think it's Kagamusha, because the person who told me said that it was part of the inspiration for Star Wars.
No, that would be Hidden Fortress.
Okay, Hidden Fortress then.
That one, it's definitely an inspiration on Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, at least the way they adapted Lord of the Rings, like the way it's shot. It's pretty cool. Not my favorite Kurosawa movie, but it is interesting to watch. Like, you'll be like, oh, these 2 characters are definitely R2-D2 and C-3PO, and then you'll be like, oh, there's the princess, and then there's the kind of the Luke character. Except for he's kind of more
Yeah,
like
that's-
Luke and Han combined.
Han I forgot, who is Han Solo again?
Oh my god.
Dude, I'm not a Star Wars fan at all.
Are you looking it up?
Uh,
I saw you focusing and concentrating. I don't know if I should like even
I am-
bother to
I am
explain
looking
who
up
Han
now.
Solo is.
Hold on. Oh, I remember Han Solo. Pretend I never asked.
Oh
I remember
man.
Han Solo. Hansi Solo. But I'd like to spit out some more info on Bavarian Warmbloods. I feel
Right. We are experts on the Bavarian Warmblood, and that's what, today's episode.
Yeah, and I think this is what people deserve to hear, is this line from my new book, Bavarian Warmblood.
2.
To TOO. Today, this is from the intro. I do some stuff, and I have an intro. But so this is the first one of the lines from the intro. Today, Bavarian Warmblood pedigrees are made up of blood from other German Warmbloods, particularly Holsteiners, Hanoverians, Westphalians, Oldenburgs, Württembergers, Rhinelanders, and Saxony-Thuringian Warmbloods. Plus,
Thuringian.
I don't.
Not a hand. He's an expert on the horse, but not the German language.
Yeah, not the German language or spelling. Plus a number of approved Dutch Warmbloods, thoroughbreds, track henners, and even Bunyoni stallions.
Of course. Another favorite of mine is the Bunyani stallion.
Oh, those stallions. That deserves a whole nother episode.
Oh yeah. You know what's wild? Since I've been reading the Bruce Springsteen autobiography, apparently his daughter grew up to be a world champion horse woman. Like she does horse events.
She's an equestrian.
Yeah, she's kind of an equine
expert.
Like us. She's also an expert on the equine. So I thought that was pretty crazy.
I don't understand how people getting into horses. First of all, it's such a white
rich people
thing.
Shit. It's rich white people shit.
Rich white people shit completely. Like, there's no other reason why you want to get into horses or even have the funds to get into horses. They also have weird eyes.
People who like horses have weird eyes?
Them and horses.
And
horses have weird eyes.
The way he described it was basically like he had like a house out in the country, and that they passed by some farm where there was a horse, and she was 4 years old or something, and it was like, can we go see that horse? And he just walked up to this guy's farm, and because he's Bruce Springsteen and can do that, and he was like, can she see the horse and touch it and stuff? And he was like, yeah, go ahead. And then that was it. And the way he wrote it, he was like, the way he wrote it, he was like, she does not remember a life where she was not riding horses. Like because it was started when she was 4 years old. So
Jesus,
you have to be the daughter of a rock star, like a world famous, super rich rock star, to be into horses.
If that guy was just a regular old Joe schmoo and came up to a guy with a horse with his daughter, the guy with the horse would not pay attention to him.
There was probably also some just, country hospitality there,
Maybe. But I'm sure he got Bruce's autograph.
Maybe. That wasn't mentioned.
Can you sign my horse's ass, please?
And he breaks out a Sharpie and he just signs it.
Yeah, Bruce Springsteen.
I've been surprised how obvious how aware yet unaware he is of his own ego. Like throughout the entire book, he's critical of himself and at his greatest moments, he'll talk about really big concerts he does and he'll be like, I don't know, I didn't really think this was a very good show, but everybody else said it was, and stuff like that. So he's very critical of himself, but at the same time, he constantly comes back to this thing of I knew it was my band and it's my thing and everybody better respect this. It's weird. Cause I always thought that was the point, because the band, it's Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Right. But I always thought the inclusion of that meant, it's important to recognize that there are other people involved in this. Just even going by that name was a sign that you should respect that. But he
why wouldn't they even put the name in there?
Yeah. But he continuously says stuff like, it's my band. People would ask me for more money and I would say, no, stuff like that. And I'd be like,
Jesus,
this is rough. And it's weird because especially to his fans, the band is just as important. They are characters in the thing that they love. They're fan favorites. You got your Clarence Clemens and your Little Steven and all that stuff.
When you read the Lou Reed book, did he sound like that too?
Well, the Lou Reed book was just a biography.
Okay.
The Bruce Springsteen one I'm reading is an autobiography. I will say the thing I liked more about the Lou Reed book was that since that was written by a journalist and a guy who also personally knew Lou Reed, he would go through every album track by track and kind of analyze every song and kind of how it makes sense in the context of his life at the time and what it meant for Lou's image overall. Whereas in Bruce's book, and it's his own book where he's writing about his own music, so you'd think he'd have a lot of insights. He really doesn't get into it. He doesn't get into writing and recording and talking about the music very much. He does, talk about like why he wanted to make a certain album, but it's usually no more than a paragraph or something. Like Nebraska got like 3 pages, and all it was just a little bit of like, yeah, I used this 4-track recorder. They were all supposed to be demos, and then we released it. It's just like I want to know like what you think of each song. Like, let's talk about the immortal songs that you wrote. It's more about just his life.
Is the book about him? Just okay. Yeah. Like, so it's more of him as a person rather than a rock star.
Yeah, it's kind of more of his personal journey, I guess you could say, which I enjoy too. But
that kind of seems like a Springsteen thing to do.
Yeah, but he does, write so much about how much he loves the music and how much he loves playing live and how much music means to him. He probably talks more about his influences in music than he does his own. And
who is his influences?
50s kind of like pop music. The first thing he talks about is seeing Elvis on TV, and that was like the first time he like got really into rock and roll. And then the Beatles, and the Beatles were like, for a lot of people, the thing that made him want to start a band. So there's a lot of Beatles and Elvis and like old soul music and like Motown and that kind of stuff was kind of the big, but then Bob Dylan too. Like his first album is so trying to be Bob Dylan. It's actually kind of funny because there's 2 like worst albums, the 2 that are the most commercially or like most universally considered like the worst. He straight up does not acknowledge in the book. Like he made 2 albums in the early 90s that were released on the same day. And it basically like every album has a chapter dedicated to it. And then it gets to that period of his life and it just totally skips over. He had his kids like at the same time. And so he just talks about his kids for like 3 chapters. And then it goes to the next album, which is Ghost of Tom Joad. And he just goes, my last 2 albums were received with something like indifference. And that's all he says. And I'm like, that's so crazy. Yeah. He won't even like, let's just something. Let's say something about it. Like you can say it was bad.
What did Lou Reed? Oh, I forgot. So what did the guy say about the well, so I guess that Noise album Lou Reed made was a joke album. So I guess it still has some sort of intent of it being like not good. But does Lou Reed have commercially accepted bad albums that guy brought up?
Lou was like always kind of hard to read. He would talk shit on his own music all the time. As a joke or serious? We can't really know. That's kind of like why he's so cool. Because you're like, damn. Because he would just like Metal Machine music is probably one of the ones that he would actually talk about being great because he knows nobody else liked it. Like, because it was a bit, and he would like enjoy to talk about like that was the only good record I made. But like Berlin, which was a fucking classic album, he talked shit on that all the time because it was not received well, like commercially. Like if it didn't sell a lot of records, he usually wasn't like happy about it. And then Sally Can't Dance, which was his album that did the best commercially, was the one he said something like, that's the one that it's like he's like, that's my worst album and it did the best, so go figure. Like he pretty much talked shit on his music more than he talked about it being good, which is a good way to position yourself, I guess, because nobody can ever take it away from you. They're like, it just makes you think it's better.
Yeah. Well, it sounds kind of safe for him to make anything he would want to make because no one puts him in like a bubble, a box of like, oh, this guy makes this type of music.
Yeah. He did everything. Like he did every kind of music. He did like R&B kind of stuff on Sally Can't Dance. He did obviously the drone noise album, which is Metal Machine music. He did like more like 80s poppy stuff, and then he did like straight up ambient music that was designed for doing Tai Chi too.
Yeah, I can't find that album. At least it's not on Spotify. I want to listen to that one.
Yeah. But he got really into like meditation and shit at the end of his life. Hudson River Wind Meditations is the name of the album. It should be on his. Yeah, it's for Tai Chi.
Hudson River.
Hudson River Wind Meditations.
Oh, there it is.
One of the songs that I really got a new appreciation for with the Springsteen book is "Born in the USA," which I know you've heard the song because it's fucking
everyone's heard that.
Everybody's heard that song, but nobody acknowledges what it's actually about. Which because like the concept,
it's not about being proud of the USA.
Yeah, it's about being conflicted. I think
communist.
Well, it's about being a communist. Like growing up and everything, listening to my dad loves Bruce Springsteen, and so I had heard it a lot as a kid, and you have this idea of like, it's like, I'm born in the USA. Isn't that fucking awesome? And to this day, like Republican politicians use the song to like on their campaign and shit. And they don't realize that the lyrics are like, we were sent to Vietnam, sent to kill the yellow man, killed in Khe Sanh, and like all this stuff about how awful Vietnam was and how the American people are mistreated. And it's kind of this interesting like conflict of like being proud of being born in the USA and being like disappointed in the identity and the choices that are made for us. And I think there's like a really interesting conflict between the way, like the music of the song and the lyrics too. Like there's this super anthemic, huge like the synth line and the snare like thing at the beginning, just versus like the really haunting lyrics that he just like screams with like so much passion. And I really like came to like love that song even more. And I found one particular video like that I like performance of it that I liked from 1985 when the album came out, that it just like floored me. I can like his live stuff is so good. And he writes a lot about being on that tour and being on the world tour and playing it in like European and African audiences and all kind of people all over the world, and how like that song, like, despite being so difficult to understand, especially if you don't speak English, like still like seems to like really hit for people, which is interesting. That album is so good.
Well, I was talking to my mom yesterday about how we were listening to U2. And it's interesting to me how they're such known as like an arena rock band, but at one point in time, they like nobody ever heard of them. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious how like they sounded like just playing in random bars and shit when they're known as an arena band. And Bruce Springsteen's kind of a little bit in the same boat because he got so famous and popular. He probably did arenas all the time, but at one point in time, they were nobody. Just like U2 definitely started as a like post-punk kind of band.
They're more poppy than say Joy Division, but they were 100%. Like Bono always says that their biggest inspirations were the Ramones and like English punk and stuff. And if you listen to their first few albums, like listen to like their first album, Boy, because it's from 1980, which is, kind of peak post-punk.
Oh, geez.
I Will Follow. Like, that song's fucking good. It wasn't, I mean, they eventually expanded, and I think they always kind of wanted to be big arena acts.
And
they started pretty small and hard. The Bruce was similar because like his original, like I said, his first album is very Bob Dylan, and then he kind of got more into like a soul jazz kind of big band thing on the second album, which I think was his idea from the beginning. the songwriting just got smaller. And then Born to Run being the big breakthrough album was more, it had that affectation of the big band soul thing, but for like what would become his classic kind of songwriting style. So anyway, it just goes to show, the Bavarian Warmblood is, I think personally a classic horse, a very well-rounded horse. It's got a lot of cool things about it.
It's kind of like the Budweiser of horses.
Well, that's probably Clydesdales. Clydesdales are the mascot of Budweiser.
Oh.
Which we know because we're experts.
I mean, okay, Budweiser, like the Heineken. That's a good example because Heineken's from Germany.
No, it's not.
It's like the Pilsner of.
It's like the Hofbrau. Hofbrau
It's like the Jimmy Hoffa of horses. The Hoffa.
Jimmy Hofbrau.
Jimmy Hofbrau of horses.
So classic horse. And I think you learned a lot today about this horse. And
yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously there's so many species of horses. It's hard to pick one to talk about.
We could have picked any horse, but we picked one that we both knew so much about.
Yeah, there's that.
Experts.
Well, we know a lot about horses, so it's like it's a good horse. It's a good horse all around. It's a good horse. Cool name. Great bloodline.
Yeah,
great pedigree.
We know a lot about things in general, and that's really what you're going to get on this podcast is, this educational podcast you're listening to. You're going to get great discussion and informative talk about, the topics you want to hear about.
This is going to be the planet Earth of podcasts.
And, as we said, Bavarian Warmblood, now because today we really talked about it.
We talked about it. And we're going to continue talking about it.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode.
See you later, foreheads.